The Pilot Safety Institute is a nonprofit organization dedicated to reducing general aviation accidents by providing free and low-cost safety classes. Our speaker today is Gary Reeves. Gary has over 5,000 hours. He's an ATP, a Master CFI, II, and MEI. Gary is also an expert in Garmin avionics and ForeFlight. He has instructed over 200 students and is a Young Eagles flight leader. He's also the 2014 Long Beach District Instructor of the Year and FAA Safety Team Member of the Year. There are 97,000 flight instructors in the U.S. Less than 800 have ever been named Master Instructor. California only has 14. And now, please welcome from Big Bear, California, Gary Reeves.
How y'all doing? I volunteer for pilotsafety.org, and many people ask me if I get paid, and then I do not from Pilot Safety. What I do for a living is I own a company called masterflighttraining.com. I'm a master instructor. I was recently awarded the 2016 Instructor of the Year for the Southwest region, which is California, Arizona, Nevada, and Hawaii, and puts me one step out from the National Instructor of the Year. What I do and what my expertise is I'm really, really good at anything Garmin. So people from all over the US and Canada hire me to come to them, train them in their airplane, in their home environments, and make them better at the equipment installed in their airplane. Anything G1000, GTN, Garmin 430. I do a lot of one-on-one iPad training, including ForeFlight classes. And then I also do a lot of mountain flying, emergency training, and instrument training. So if any of you all would like to support me or hire me, I'm always available at masterflighttraining.com. But let's talk about the free stuff and what you're supporting tonight, and that's the Pilot Safety Institute. We're going to do just over 10 or 12,000 FAA safety credits this year. The way we pay for it all is by people buying these DVDs or attending the occasional paid webinar. Our bills just to run the webinars every month are about $800. And so if you're on our paid webinar tonight or you've bought this as a DVD, we really appreciate it. And you can actually ask us questions for free, as well as watch a ton of free videos and download a bunch of free stuff at pilotsafety.org. Do you need to give you an important legal notice? ForeFlight is a trademark of ForeFlight LLC. ForeFlight's not connected with. They don't support us. They don't talk to us. They don't have anything to do with pilotsafety.org. So for any information on how to buy the product, please visit foreflight.com. So I want to start off asking the instructors in the audience. A G1000 is a complex glass panel system because it does flight planning, georeference maps, taxi diagrams, weather, traffic, and a bunch of other stuff. How many of you as instructors would recommend a new private pilot who learned in a steam gauge airplane to watch 2 or 3 YouTube videos and figure it out while they were flying? Well, of course not. To be even safe in a glass panel airplane, you need a minimum of 8 to 10 hours of training with an expert. It's not something you just pick up while you're flying. The FAA every single month has people that get airspace violations, and even worse, get near misses and violate TFRs because they don't understand how to work glass panel airplanes. But the FAA violations have increased tenfold because of people using portable complex glass panel systems. ForeFlight is an amazing product. I've used it for years. I've been a fan of theirs since day one. I also like a program called FlyQ, but I got to tell you, ForeFlight is amazing. But the downside to ForeFlight is it is so complex, and they add so many features, seems like every week, that people don't ever get trained on how to use it. And the FAA in certain regions has increased tenfold airspace violations and other pilot deviations directly related to people who use an iPad but have never been trained how to do it. And they all say the same thing. I read 3 pages out of an owner's manual and I watched a couple YouTube videos. That is not safe. All glass panel requires training to be safe. So please find a master instructor in your area who can do some one-on-one instruction. How do you pick an instructor to do ForeFlight training? The instructor has to have used ForeFlight for more than 2 years, have at least 50 hours in actual IMC, and know how to use every function. As an instructor out there, please don't teach people to use ForeFlight if you don't know how to use it. That's not fair to them. A good start is on foreflight.com. They have a lot of YouTube videos and they have the owner's manual, which you can read. Pilotsafety.org also has over 8 hours of training available on DVDs to make you really good. It really does kind of take that long to be good at it. Today, on this DVD or this webinar, all we're going to cover is the recent new features. We're going to talk about their new prices and plans as of January 2016, the new tracked logs feature, their logbook, ForeFlight Web, and the new graphic weather briefing capabilities. We're also going to talk about the Garmin Flight Stream, and this is really exciting. There are some serious limitations to it, but it really is amazing if you have a Garmin-equipped airplane. So let's start out with the new ForeFlight prices. Basic Plus is just $99 a year, which is certainly cheaper than buying new paper charts. And it includes flight planning, filing, and briefing. That includes opening and closing VFR flight plans from your tablet or iPhone, aviation weather briefs, VFR and IFR charts, ForeFlight taxi charts, but it does not include geo-referenced taxi charts. That means you can look at a taxi chart, but you don't see the little blue moving airplane. Airport and FBO information, GPS, weight and balance logbook, and the Garmin Flight Stream. I just flat out tell everybody, you just got to buy the Pro Plus. The Pro Plus is absolutely worth it because it gives you geo-referenced approach and taxi charts. Anybody who's taught IFR or learned IFR will tell you the hardest thing about instrument flying is knowing where you are on the approach plate. Well, it's really super easy when you got the little blue moving airplane. The geo-referenced taxi charts, again, it's pretty hard to have a runway incursion or get lost if you got a little blue moving airplane. Remember, it is legally required under 91-103, and it always has been, to have a current taxi chart in front of you before you move an airplane at a towered airport. So ForeFlight Basic for $99 has them, but for an extra $100, you get the little blue moving plane. You also get Hazard Advisor, which is the train, Profile, Synthetic Vision and AHARS, Cloud Documents, and in-flight notifications, which tells you about stuff that's changed since you last got a weather briefing. So it is very much worth it to me just to pay the $200 a year, but I kind of have a secret deal for you that you may not know about. How about if you could get ForeFlight Pro for 33% off? Anybody can. You don't even have to be an instructor to be a member of SAFE. SAFE is the Flight Educators Group. They are a big national organization, and they're very much interested in flight safety. We provide training programs for CFIs on a national basis, and most members are flight or ground instructors, but you don't have to be. And if you go to safepilots.org and join as a member, you'll pay $45 for a year, and you get a lot of benefits, newsletters. I have a monthly column in them, an electronic magazine. You get a ton of other benefits and discounts. But if you paid $45 just for the SAFE membership, 33% off is $65. You still walk away with $20, even if you never do another thing with SAFE. So I really, really recommend that everybody join SAFE. It'll save you $20 right off the bat, and there's a lot of benefits to being part of that organization. Not just if you're an instructor, but maybe you might want to be an instructor one day. Okay, let's talk about track logs. And this is really cool. Again, a lot of benefits for being an instructor because you can review what you did with a student. But there's an awful lot of benefits to everybody using track logs every time. The FAA radar is not accurate. FAA radar is based on vacuum tube technology, and they know where you are within about 2 miles of where you actually are. So one of the causes is people that don't understand this trying to use ForeFlight, they'll go 50 feet outside a restricted area. The FAA radar doesn't see them outside, it paints them inside, and the FAA sends you an investigation letter, and let's talk about suspending and retraining and all that nasty stuff. Well, again, it's only people that have never taken formal training that do this, but one of the nice things is you can actually go in and say, look, I was actually outside of it, and it is possible for the FAA to let you off based on having a track log. I don't recommend it. I still recommend you stay a mile outside of any airspace and 500 feet above or below, but it could help you out of a sticky situation. So let's show you how to do the track logs. To record a track log, all you have to do is either set it to auto record by going to More, Settings, scrolling up to track log and select auto start stop. You can also disable that and just show the manual buttons on the screen. I actually prefer to have it automatically track things. Then when you go to maps, once you reach takeoff speed, it will automatically begin recording your track log. You can also just do it manually by pushing the recording button. It will now record the track log until you tell it to stop. To view the track logs, click on More, Track Logs, and you can then see the track logs that it's recorded. So from this latitude and longitude to Tucson, you'll notice there's a cloud button to the right. If I touch that, it's now uploaded it to the web server. You can click on any particular one and see a summary, but to see the track logs, you actually have to go to the website, which you can do through your mobile device just by clicking View on ForeFlight.com. It will now load ForeFlight in your web browser and show you the route, which is again a great way of helping with students. You can change the layers to anything you want. Next, we'll talk about viewing them on a desktop or laptop computer and some other tools to help with your students or just reviewing your own flight plans. So let's start on foreflight.com, and we're going to click Log In. Then on the left, I'm going to click Track Log, and here are my recorded track logs. So there's a really good one on December 30th right at the top that is from near El Paso, Texas into Tucson. You'll notice you can download in several formats, but let's start with View first. That's basically my route. It gives you the time, the total distance, even what it was recorded on. You can also change the view by clicking the little map layer button right there in the top left. Let's change it to aerial map. That shows some of the terrain and the mountain flying. We can also do a VFR sectional and an IFR low. And all of these are really great to share with students. However, I actually like downloading it and using a different program called Cloud Ahoy even better. So to download it, what you do is do KML full, and you're going to save the file as a download, which I've already done. Then let's go over to Cloud Ahoy. We're going to click My Debriefs to log in. I've already imported the track log from ForeFlight, which is very, very simple and very easy to do. And let's just show that flight. And I'll show you why I like Cloud Ahoy so much better. This is the exact same flight. We're going to click Debrief. And Cloud Ahoy has some really, really cool options. Like if I want to show when I'm flying over the high terrain, that's starting at El Paso. Here's the same thing, and you can still view it on a sectional. If I want to go right about here, doing a mountain flying class, I want to show that terrain. So I drag the slider bar until my little blue air or little gold airplane gets pretty close to the terrain, and then check out this amazing technology from Cloud Ahoy that actually does an artificial glass panel showing altitude, ground speed, and you can even see the terrain in the back as we fly over it. We can increase the playback rate so we get there just a little bit faster. Now, this is not a movie recording from an external camera like a GoPro, a Garmin Verb, although you can sync it. This is all built in and free as part of the basic standard Ahoy view. You can even add new views. And we'll do this one on a sectional. So you can add as many views as you want. Just depending on how cluttered the screen you would like. But this actually very clearly shows the high terrain coming up. So ForeFlight track logs are great. It's free, built into the Pro version. However, I really do think everybody should just pay the extra little bit of money for Cloud Ahoy, especially instructors, because when you can do a live playback like this, it really makes all the difference in the world for students. Now, all of the features on the screen are free, included in the service. Cloud Ahoy itself costs $45 a year, and it's just absolutely required if you're a flight instructor. But it's really cool even if you're not. Let's go ahead and create a new logbook entry. On the iPad, if you click on the More button in the bottom right, then click on Logbook, you'll see everything you've done, and you can scroll up and down. Let's just add a new simple entry. If I touch the plus button in the top right, then put new flight, we'll make it today's date in, let's see, let's do 1 Kilo Victor from Long Beach to KTUS. And we want to go ahead and put in the routes to get the mileage correct. KBNG, PSP, the Vico intersection. We have two ways of doing it. We can do the Hobbs time, which we'll say in this plane is 225.7. Back up. 0.7. And then we can do the Hobbs end of 228.9er. It will then automatically calculate your times for you. You can also use tack time, and there is a feature where you can actually log in with a clock time, like 1:13 p.m., and then log out at 4:47. So I'm going to say that this is pilot and command time, so I'm going to touch use 3.2 right here. I'm going to scroll up, and I'm going to touch use cross country 3.2, and then I'll hit use distance 385.8. I'll scroll up, and now I'll just touch add 1 day takeoff and add 1 day landing. Actually, let's tell you what, let's make that a night landing so you can see the difference. Scroll up. We'll say that we have to do an instrument approach, and we'll say actual instrument time is 0.5. Now, the FAA did clarify what it takes to record in your logbook what an actual instrument approach is. And you must be in IMC conditions inside the final approach fix. They actually clarified that ruling. So we'll say that we did an approach. We'll touch the add approach bar at Tucson. I'm going to select choose type, and we'll put RNAV, and then I'll choose runway 29er right. It was not a circle to land, and I'll hit lookup. RNAV 29er right. Now you can just look up from the straight airport. You don't have to enter by hand the RNAV and everything. Okay, then I'm going to click close. Now, because I'm a master flight instructor and I do a lot of cross-country and mountain flying, this counts to me as dual given. You have to enter it by hand. 3.2, close. I did some ground training with him of 1.0 hour, we'll say. And then I'm going to click add a person. Now this is great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click add a person, and I'm going to pick Britt and click done. Now you'll notice Britt automatically comes up as a student. Then I'm going to scroll up, and comments, I'll put not a real flight. Okay? I'll then make my keyboard go away. Everything looks good. And then all I have to do is click back. Good. Now, if I click on last 7 days, Long Beach to Tucson, there's my fake flight. I can then go back. Now, if you need to modify or delete anything, you have to do it from the iPad or the iPhone. The website will not let you do that. However, if I go back, all of these updates, totals will now appear online. So to remove that flight, I'm going to click on last 7 days, and I'm just going to slide it to the left and click delete. Are you sure you want to delete the fake flight? Yes, I am. And I'll click delete. All right. Now there are other advantages to this logbook. The nice thing is it will auto-record a lot of information. You can add different things like aircraft, and I can just look for any plane. So I'll search November 939 Romeo Juliet, and I'll hit search. No results. All right, let's try 1482 Yankee. Search. Not really working because I haven't stored it under my aircraft. These are all the aircraft I've previously stored information about. You could pull up any of these. Anything else, you just simply have to add. So if I go back to Logbook and I go aircraft, add November 1482 Yankee, and I put Cessna 172, Cessna under manufacturer, model 172. Then the more information you give it, the better it will be for your logbook. So we can do category class, airplane single engine land. Gear type is fixed tricycle. Engine type is piston. It is not complex, high performance, or pressurized, and hit close. Now I can then select it right there at the bottom. And we'll go ahead and delete that airplane. Delete. All right, if we go back, we can also add people. If you're using this on your iPhone, you can actually set up directly from your phone contacts. Qualifications. These are my current qualifications: airline transport pilot, commercial pilot, and flight instructor. Let's go ahead and add a new one. Let's add, let's say I fulfill my goal this year of adding a seaplane. So I'm going to add a certificate, select on certificate, and it will be private pilot. My certificate number is the same as all of my certificates. It always will be. We'll issue it today. When I touch on expires, try that again here. Sorry, it keeps dropping. I'm going to clear that and touch the never button, because pilot certificates never expire. Then let's add the rating. The rating type will be airplane single engine C. It expires, clear, never, done. Go back. You can take a picture of it if you wish, and then hit close. And now those are my certificates. Now, I didn't actually get my seaplane rating today. I just wanted to. So all I have to do is remove from logbook. Delete. Unfortunately, yes. But if anybody knows a good seaplane school and they want to help me out, hey, I'm looking for it. All right, let's go back. And the last thing you can do is touch settings. So entry time format, decimal, dot, point, dot, dot. You can also do hours and minutes if you're in ICAO. Some people prefer that. Auto log track logs. That means that if you do record a track log, it will automatically add this to it if you want it to. You can autofill total time from Hobbs or TAC, and you can even pick the fields you want on. I don't use out, on duty, off duty, or SIC because I never use any of that. You can even add custom fields if you want to. We'll close that out, go back to settings, and that's pretty much all you have to do a logbook. You can also add a currency summary. And what a currency summary does is it just shows you on your field if you're night current, IFR current, or other. Now, you do have some interesting logbook choices to make should you wish to start using ForeFlight Logbook. If you're a brand new pilot and you've never flown, hey, start from the beginning and you're great. Your other options are 1, hand enter every flight you've ever made. 2, just enter everything in the last 90 days and keep your old logbooks. The reason you do the last 90 days or the last 6 months is that will establish all the important currencies. You can even enter just a few summary lines, but that's hard if you've flown more than one different plane. Or you can convert your old paper logbooks and upload. Now, there's 2 ways to enter a bunch of data. One, you can go to foreflight.com and click on support, and they will help you download a very complicated and long, this is not even showing all the fields, of the data it wants on every single flight. So hand doing this or trying to convert from another electronic logbook is a challenge. It's going to take you some time. They also recommend in their support site they also recommend a private company called convertmylogbook.com that if you send in your paper logbooks, they will convert that to a file for you, including in the ForeFlight version. So let's take somebody with just maybe 200 hours. They would like about $115. Somebody with 200 hours probably has about 300 flights. Somebody like me with 6,000 hours, I probably couldn't afford to do it. But it is easier and faster than doing yourself. After making entries in your logbook, you can view reports anytime from the website by logging into your account, clicking on ForeFlight Web, and then clicking on Logbook. Now, this site only really lets you upload previous electronic logbooks. I used a competing electronic logbook for many years, and if I want to switch entirely over to ForeFlight, I can do that by uploading it here. And if you want, you can even download a ForeFlight template to make sure yours matches. And you can see exactly the order and everything it wants. All right. Besides importing previous logbooks, you can also go to Reports and get a general overview of whatever date range you prefer. I've only used the logbook since January 1st, and you can see in the last 7 days, I've made a total of 10 flights for 20 hours. Stuff that was PIC, including dual given, high performance, category class reports. You can't change logbook entries from here. You can't add new logbook entries from here, but you can get a general overview of it. So now let's look at ForeFlight Web, the desktop or computer-based flight planner that will sync with ForeFlight Mobile. After you log in, click on ForeFlight Web. And this brings up the default view. I'm going to go into Active Layers and remove everything except a basic aerial map and do a basic quick flight plan to show you how you can use this to start your weather brief. Remember, you're legally required to get a full and complete standard weather brief by using 1-800-WXBrief.com, by calling 1-800-WXBrief, or by doing it through ForeFlight. All are legal, but make sure you get and you read and completely understand a full legal weather brief. But this is a great graphical flight planner that's included with the ForeFlight subscriptions. So we'll close the layers out, and I'm just going to start out at KLGB, Long Beach. We'll go through the Banning Pass. We'll go by Palm Springs. Actually, let's just use the Palm Springs VOR. Then we'll go down to Tucson. And it looks like that looks pretty good, 383 nautical miles. Let's route that out. Now I can zoom out and show the entire route at any time by clicking on the route button right here. And that zooms out and shows the entire route. I can then zoom in, zoom out on any particular part of the route just by using my mouse or the zoom in and zoom out buttons. So this looks pretty good, but let's check first of all for airspaces. So I'm going to click on Active Layers and open up the VFR chart. Well, right here in the middle, you'll see it looks like I'm going through some restricted airspaces. Well, that's not really good. So if I zoom in, it looks like I should go to the Blythe VOR to go around it. So I'm just going to drag it up to right about there. And it'll ask me if I want to go to a latitude or longitude or a particular waypoint, exactly like ForeFlight Mobile does. Let's click the Blythe VOR. Well, that helps with that, but it looks like I need to go a little bit farther east before down to Tucson. So if I drag and drop to the waypoint Vico, well, that looks good. That'll keep me clear of all of the restricted airspace. Now let's start checking some weather layers. First of all, let's start out with radar. Well, I think my trip is canceled. We're done. I don't think I really even need to call for a standard weather brief or file a flight plan. I don't go into red or thunderstorm activity, and that's what's over Tucson right now. So that really makes the decision very simple, but I might want to fly it later, so I'm going to go on. If I'd like to change to a satellite view instead, and you can see some ice build up, let's check. Get rid of that. Let's look for airmets, sigmets. And look, all of the graphical airmets and sigmets are there. And you can click on any of them to get the details. We'll remove that. How about temporary flight restrictions? Well, there's my good old Disneyland TFR. We'll get rid of that. How about flight category? And this pretty much color codes everything, the same color code you're used to. Green VFR, blue, marginal VFR. We go up, red, IFR, and pink is low IFR. So if I click on KPAN, it'll bring up the current weather. And yes, with winds 220 at 7, gusting to 12, with heavy snow, overcast at 200, I would agree that that's pretty low IFR and we probably shouldn't be going that way. Let's get rid of flight category and pick up surface winds. And it shows it graphically. Get rid of that. How about dew point spread? This is particularly important for visibility if you're not instrument rated. When the temperature and the dew point spread get within about 3 degrees, you can expect fog and low clouds to form quickly. If I click on dew point spread, you'll notice temperature and dew point up here, the dew point spread is 0, and that's KPAN, the one we looked at before. Obviously low visibility. If we click here at GXF, you'll notice the temperature and the dew point spread is 6 degrees, and the lowest clouds are scattered at 7,000. So it's not the dew point, it's the temperature dew point spread. If you actually want to look on the current temperature, that's the current temperature in Celsius. Visibility in nautical miles. Ceiling is the lowest clouds. And again, KPAN showing that 200 overcast. And here, GXF, remember, scattered at 7,000 is not considered a ceiling. Only broken or overcast is considered a ceiling. So if you just look at the numbers, it's not saying those are the lowest clouds, that's the lowest ceiling. Sky coverage, 3/4 is broken, solid is overcast, there's few, there's clear. Now let's check for lightning. And the only lightning I see is actually up here in the top left corner. So now what view do I normally use? Well, I typically leave radar, SIGMETs, and the flight category on. This is kind of my default view. Now what's really interesting is I have this route. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to save it, and now it will automatically show on my iPad and my iPhone, and we'll look at that next. Now, Richard Chapman has a question. It currently does not show winds aloft. It only shows winds at the surface. But when you open it up on your iPhone or your iPad, you will be able to see everything. So if we open up the iPhone, and then we now see the routes we stored under routes. Look, everything's right there. Touch maps, and there's your route. There is some weird glitch where it's not showing VICO, but the route line is correct. It's just showing as a latitude, longitude. Wouldn't affect filing or anything, but it still is just a random little glitch. If you touch that forward button, then you can send it to file and brief, and we can click whatever we want to either file or get a brief. It's pretty much the same process, but it looks slightly different on the iPad. Now, with their new partnership with Lockheed Martin, 1-800-WXBrief.com, we now have the advantage to get a much better and easier to read weather briefing. So let's take the route that we have. We're going to click the forward button in the bottom right, or send to. I'm going to click File and Brief. Let's make this a VFR flight. Let's make it today at 2:55 local California time. Let's correct the altitude to be 11,500. And let's change the fuel on board to be 4 hours. Now what I always do is it calculates the time very precisely. I always add 15 to 20 minutes to that to give myself some fudge room just in case of a stronger headwind or problems. Now, I can go ahead and file that as a flight plan, but instead, what I'm going to do is click Brief. And this will now retrieve a graphical weather briefing. Although not 100% as good as using 1-800-WXBrief.com, their website directly, it is many of the same technologies and almost as good. So if you're not available to get to a computer, this is definitely the way to do it. It takes a few minutes to download all the graphics, but well worth your time and much, much easier to read than what we call a legacy briefing. That just takes a second to download, and then you'll see this. As soon as the weather brief is loaded, it will automatically go to the first category, which is temporary flight restrictions. And you'll notice it says there's a temporary flight restriction near Upland, but it is inactive during the passing time of my proposed flight. To go to the next category, all you have to do is touch Closed Unsafe NOTAMs at the bottom. Okay, so we have runway 16 left and 34 right closed. We have 16 right and 34 left closed. And we have a runway at Tucson, 11 left, 29 right closed. Well, I'm very familiar with Long Beach, but I want to mark that 11 left, 29 right is closed. So what I'm going to do is go to Plates, load KTUS, the airport diagram, find the runway that's closed. So if we go back to File and Brief, you'll notice it's 11 left, 29 right. Go back to the plates, and we're going to mark that out by taking a red pen and just marking a red line to make sure that when I go in and display this on the map, that I know it's closed. I can go back to File Brief and move on to convective segments. Okay, so there is a convective segment, and you can clearly see that it's active during the passing time and where it goes through. If you want more information, you can just tap that. And there's another one that does this one. So it looks like we have two convective segments and the information's passing through. And I can scroll up and read the convective segment if I want to. Let's go to IFR AirMets. There is an AirMet Sierra, but you can see that it's close to my route of flight and right on the border, and it is active during my passing time. Again, you can read the details just by scrolling up. If I touch Mountain Obscuration AirMets, there's an AirMets for Sierra at the beginning of my route. Another one, and another one that are all active during my passing time. Let's touch Icing AirMets. There's AirMet Zulu, and you can see It's close to my route of flight. Also active during my passing time. Now, this does not show the bottom of the map or if it actually affects my routes. The one on Lockheed Martin actually will. Turbulence low air mets. Looks like I'm flying right through the middle of it. And you can read about that. And the second one, also active during my passing. And you can read about that. If I was taking the Premier jet instead of the Cessna 206, I could read about my high air mets. Now, this page is an excellent example of red is active during my passing time. The second one, showing green, is inactive during my passing time. Let's click on Synopsis. And here's the standard chart. And you can see most of my weather troubles come from a low over the Nevada-Utah border and another low in northern Texas, Oklahoma. And that's really what the weather is circulating around. That's the San Francisco area forecast synopsis. The Salt Lake City shows the exact same thing. Let's go ahead and click on METARs. And it shows color-coded trips along the way. And you can read all of them. Now, interesting enough, if you go up at the top and you slide plain text to on, there we go. It now decodes them for you. Let's go to area forecast. Here's the San Francisco area forecast, which you can read about. Another San Francisco area forecast, and the Salt Lake City area forecast. Here are the terminal aerodrome forecast. And remember, it highlights in color the time that applies to my particular route. And it shows the different TAF stations. And let's go all the way down to Tucson. And it says, shortly before I get there, it's IFR, but when I get there, it's predicted to be marginal VFR with a wind 280 at 14 knots. Winds aloft. It highlights not only the altitude I filed, but plus and minus up to 4,000 feet. So you might be able to pick a better wind direction or better altitude for speed and fuel burn. Clicking on departure NOTAMs. There are none except some obstructions near Long Beach and Fullerton. The runway NOTAMs, taxiway NOTAMs. Now if I click on destination NOTAMs, let's look at Tucson. Tucson, so the ILS 11 left localizer glide path is out of service. Good to know. Let's go to plates, close that, search for Tucson, find the ILS 11 left, and mark it up with a big red X. That way, if I try and load that procedure, it will remind me that, and I can also click on the NOTAM, that the localizer and glide path are out of service. But I like putting that big red X on there so it reminds me if I try and load it, what will happen. All right, let's go back to File and Brief. There are some obstruction NOTAMs. There's some unmanned drone activity. I already marked that the 11 left runway is closed. There are no taxiway. And there are some FDC NOTAMs which don't apply to me. Now let's check en route navigation NOTAMs. There's a bunch of stuff at LAX and some GPS testing may not be available within those certain radiuses. So you would have to go to that latitude and longitude or off the TCS VOR and then do a radius to see if those apply to you. It's not shown graphically in ForeFlight. En route communication NOTAMs. It looks like at Riverside, the thermal flight service remote is out, and the Fowler EFOS routes are all out because remember, EFOS, which is typically 122.0, is permanently disabled, but this is showing typically flight service stuff. If we go to en route service NOTAMs, there are some obstruction or service NOTAMs, and you'll notice that Corona, the AWAS is broken permanently, and then immediately after, the new one has been installed. Let's look at obstruction NOTAMs. There are 43 obstruction NOTAMs, and we can simply scroll through them. The nice thing about Lockheed Martin, the 1-800-WXBrief.com website, it actually shows all of these graphically, so if you're not familiar with these, you can see them directly. ForeFlight really is amazing with the new graphic weather briefing, but it's still not 100% as good as using the Lockheed Martin site. En route airspace NOTAMs. Looks like there's some parasail activity south of Santa Ana and some other military operations where they're doing the lights out and drone activity. Let's go to special use airspace. And it tells you about them, but it doesn't show you them graphically like the Lockheed Martin website. But it still tells you about them. You just need to look up each one of these NOTAMs to see if it applies to you. En route taxiway, runway, FGC NOTAMs. Again, a bunch of stuff at Los Angeles that you still have to scroll through and check each airport to see if any of them apply to you. Let's do en route military NOTAMs. Something about Los Alamitos, which is really, really interesting. They're having trouble with their radar. So it's telling you they're having trouble with their radar, having trouble with the ATIS, and other issues. They're getting it all fixed, but they're just having problems. Some different changes at March Air Force Base. And again, you just kind of need to read through all of them and know where these airports are in relationship to your route. FDC NOTAMs. Remember, FDC are instrument approach and chart NOTAMs. So you would need to mark these. You can't mark them on the low altitude chart in ForeFlight, but you can, put a sticky note or something and see if any of these en route charts apply to you. ForeFlight gives you a current chart the day the FAA releases them. However, they may not stay current for their entire time on ForeFlight or any provider because NOTAMs come out, and it is your responsibility to read through every single NOTAM every single time. You notice I can slide the entire screen to the left and right if you want to look through anything. This is nice because if you look at the top left, there are 4 unread sections. So there are 4 sections we have not read yet. Let's just go all the way through and make sure everything goes. Uncategorized NOTAMs. Hurricane NOTAMs. The convective outlook, and it does look like there's a possibility for convective outlook today, the day we thought about doing the flight, along our entire route of flight. And again, that's just pretty much enough to say, you know what, this is not a good idea. If we drag it to the right, we still have one unread section, and that is the legacy briefing. If you click on legacy briefing, either on the side menu or the blue button, this is the old complete standard weather briefing if you want to read through the original format. So the graphic weather briefing really is amazing in the new ForeFlight. It's a partnership with Lockheed Martin, but as I said, the briefing is easier to read actually on 1-800-WXBrief.com. The advantage, however, to doing everything through ForeFlight is by filing everything through ForeFlight, you can get your expected instrument clearances directly into ForeFlight, and you can open and close via ForeFlight plans directly through ForeFlight. So that's the advantage of doing it through ForeFlight. Now, the Garmin Flight Stream capabilities of ForeFlight, not as good as using Garmin Pilot, the actual Garmin app, but I don't think the Garmin app is as good as ForeFlight. So there's a little bit of trade-off. So I think ForeFlight is a much better app, and it does talk to Garmin avionics. And let me show you what you can do. If you have all of the required Garmin systems, it can send ADS-B traffic and weather to your iPad. You cannot ever send any weather or traffic from the Stratus and your iPad back to the Garmin avionics. It's only a one-way thing. You cannot get Sirius XM weather on ForeFlight. You cannot control the Sirius XM music feature on ForeFlight. That's only if you actually are using the Garmin Pilot app. You do have the ability, and this is the most important thing, to do two-way flight plan transfers. This is great because you do all of your flight planning at home on ForeFlight. You get in the plane, you click Send To, and your Garmin 430, 530, or the GTN series, poof, it's there. And even better in flight, if you get an amendment to your route from ATC, you can change it on ForeFlight and then automatically update the 430 system, or you can put it on the GTN system, and then it will reverse automatically ForeFlight the iPad just by doing a quick button push. So this is really, really cool. Also, it will send AHRS and the synthetic vision system to the iPad. So you don't need the Stratus anymore. But remember, it will never send anything back except the flight plan. Now, there are some little gotchas to this. It is not a cheap system. I have a Cessna 206 with a Garmin 430 WAS. Awesome. I want to connect my ForeFlight back, and so I can do flight plans. Well, it's going to take me a little bit of money. I have to buy the GDL, the data link system, 88, which is $4,000 plus installation, and the Flight Stream 210 system for another $1,000 per installation. And that only allows me to send the data back and forth. And it only works with a 430 or 530 WAS. It must be WAS. Or the GTN 650, 750 series. It absolutely will not work with any G1000, which is really, really interesting. There's not even a good ADS-B connection for the G1000 right now. And I'm not saying that's not going to change. I'm sure it will, and very, very quickly. But there are some catches to the flight stream. But if you have a 430 or 530 WAS, or if you have the new GTN series, or if you're going to install a GTN, hey, as long as you're paying $17,000 for a GTN, you might as well pay another $4,000 and hook up the data link and the flight stream, and then get everything perfect. if you have any questions and would like to work with me on a one-on-one basis, I'll come to you or you can come to me, and everything will work out, and I can train you in ForeFlight and, of course, your Garmin avionics. If you'd like to get better at ForeFlight before you use it again, well, we certainly can help you out. There are over 8 hours of DVD training available at pilotsafety.org, including this actual webinar. And it's not like any other training I've ever done. It's not me quickly going through a webinar. It's designed for you to play it on a DVD player, not on a computer, not on a laptop. Sit down in front of the fireplace, turn on the DVDs, and it's actually, we're going to push every little button together, step by step by step. Okay? We've got detailed explanations of functions, a bunch of shortcuts and pro tips, correcting common mistakes, and like I said, very detailed step-by-step instructions. And the best part is there's a lot of movie footage of actual in-flight use. If you need any free help, hey, come to pilotsafety.org and click Ask the Experts anytime. I'm going to scroll through on the webinar and answer a couple questions if I can. Richard Chapman, hey Richard, will Wi-Fi from Garmin provide GPS position to ForeFlight and eliminate the Stratus? Absolutely, it replaces everything. Several people are saying, hey, great job and all that, and I certainly appreciate all of you. Here's an interesting statistic for you. Less than 1% of accidents every year in the US happen to people who invest their time in safety programs. That's right, 99% of the people out there violating the FARs, violating airspace, and bending up really nice airplanes simply don't do any continuing education. So the people on the webinars and the people, if you're seeing this at home on a DVD, you're my hero. I totally appreciate it. If I didn't answer your questions, email me anytime, Gary R. at pilotsafety.org. Again, that's Gary R. at pilotsafety.org. Thanks, and we'll see you all soon.